What is up, guys? We are here in the hotel room on my birthday to do the regional championship predictions for Europe. First, we'll go over a recap of Thursday. I got everything right. Simple as that. Fnatic lost both games. Gale Force won both games. I think Fnatic played a little bit better than I thought, but that could have also been with the MV sub. So, yada, yada, yada. But Gale Force came out on top. It was an epic 3-2 series versus Vitality. A lot of fun to watch. That series was absolutely insane. As you saw, I was pretty happy or just excited because it was an awesome goal to end the European season. So, and I got my prediction right over Shogun. So, bam! We're looking good. But going into the regional championships now, Gale Force number 1 seed, Complexity, the number 2 seed, Vitality number 3 seed. Flip side number 4. Number 5 was Envy, 6 is PSG. Now, there is some hubbub about should it have been Vitality or Complexity in the number 2 seed because of win percentage. Personally, I like game differential better, so I wish it was game differential, then head-to-head. So I would have personally had Vitality as number 2, but, whatever. Like, these are the tiebreak rules. You can do what you want with them. It doesn't really matter. But I've talked about that before with the CLG games a couple weeks ago. So I'm not going to go back into that. But let's go over the first matchup. And that first matchup would be, I think MV Flipside is the first one on the day. That should be a really good one. The last time they played, it went to 5 games. That was the only game 5 that MV won all season. And honestly, iGnite really popped off. Like, Remco was passing to him a ton. But that was way back, I think, week 2, I believe it was. So, who knows exactly where they are. Like, that's when Flipside was not playing all that well, to be fair. Flipside, actually, it might have been week 3. I think it might have been week 3. But that was when Flipside not playing that well. Like, Cook's here, he's in the MVP run. And personally, I don't have him as my MVP because weeks 1 and 2, he didn't exist. He was actually pretty rough. But then he's really popped off, obviously, in the later weeks. So, week 4, Flipside, if they show up, they're going to win this series. But I've been kind of hyping up MV all season long, and they are now on the downswing just a little bit. I feel like MV played better earlier in the season. Flipside played worse, and now Flipside's playing better, and MV's playing worse. But I think MV can bounce back here. It really depends how Remco plays. I feel like Remco was completely absent from on Sunday, and then obviously completely absent on Thursday because he didn't even play. But if he turns it around and leads the charge for this team, then iGnite should probably pop off, and Devo can get some plays in as well. So I think Envy can pull this out. Like, I know it's an upset, but I'm going to give it to Envy. I'm going to go 6 games. I don't think you want to go to Game 7 against Flipside, but we'll go 6 games for Envy in that series. Next series up is, sorry, I'm blanking today, Vitality versus PSG. And honestly, like, this is a tough out. Like, every out is tough in Europe, and that's why you want to make top 2. Vitality's playing PSG, who hasn't looked good this season, and Ferrer probably has looked the worst he's been, I think, since entering the Rlcs. I feel like he's just been a little bit off here and there. He did turn it up finally a little bit in week number 5, but I'm still a little worried about Ferrer and just the nerves in general. It seems like Bluey's not really getting a lot of the job done. And Shawset, like, I still think he's playing pretty solid, but he's definitely not that, like, MVP quality season of last season, which he should have won MVP. Come on, let's be real. Shawset number 1. But PSG, I think it's just too much for them. Vitality's playing a super clean game right now where they're just trying to wait for mistakes or wait for that opening and then go for the pass. And it seems to be working out relatively well for them. Even against Gale Force. When Gale Force was playing bad, Vitality would capitalize. Like, I saw Freaky, he would steal the ball from Turbo a bunch and just score random goals and stuff like that. The plays like that is Vitality just playing extremely smart and just waiting for those mistakes. PSG is bound to make a lot of mistakes, so I think Vitality will come out on top. But this is not an easy win. Obviously, PSG, DreamHack champions, they can definitely play with the best. So I got Vitality. We'll give this one, I'm going to go 4-1. I think this is a good, like, statement game for Vitality, and if they can come in hot versus Complexity, that should be very good for them going into the semifinals. Next up is the semifinals, and that would be, first matchup would be Gale Force Esports versus Envy, in my opinion. And Gale Force just looks so good in week number 5. I just don't see it going wrong at all. So I have Gale Force here easily. Could even be a 4-0. It just depends how Turbo's playing. Like, Turbo, I felt like played really rough on Thursday, and if he starts popping off, this team is unstoppable. So I got Gale Force, possibly a 4-0 here. Even if they play Flipside, we'll talk about that Flipside matchup too. Even though Flipside beat them last time, I would still give it to Gale Force. I'd probably give it more of like a 4-1, 4-2, like probably 4-2. Like I think Flipside can play with them, and that's if Flipside is playing well. And you would assume that if they're playing Envy, but I still have Gale Force here in that matchup. Next matchup is Complexity versus Vitality, and I think this is the match of the day. Personally, obviously, like the finals is, but we just saw Gale Force play both of these teams anyway. So I'm gonna go Vitality versus Complexity. I really think Vitality can come out on top. I'll say 7 games, 4-3. The last time they played, Vitality won, and that was when Pesci had a broken controller as well. So they played really well there. I think Complexity cannot, like, obviously do it, but I feel like they're still a little too highlighty for my likes. Like, a lot is pulling off some crazy stuff, but the thing is, Vitality always plays a passive third. And if Vitality continues that passive third mentality, who has boost, he can break up those passes to a lot, or not allow a lot to do as much cherry picking, very possibly at least. And again, because Vitality plays a little bit more safe this season, I feel like, that there'll be less opportunities for a lot. And again, though, I think they'll slightly beat them. Like, I don't think it'll be crazy or anything. So I have Vitality in that matchup. Moving on to the third place match. I have Complexity over Envy. There's like a big 3 right now in Europe, and I think even if it's Vitality, even if Flipside's there, I would still give this to Complexity. Complexity has looked really strong all season, and I think they can do it once again here in the third place game at least. Even if it's Vitality, same thing. I will give this. So it'd be Complexity versus Envy in my book. I'll give it a 4-2. I think Envy can play, but I think Complexity will come out on top. So there you have it for that game. Next up, the Grand Finals. This is it, guys. The Grand Finals. Gale Force Esports versus Vitality. They just played on Thursday and went to 5 games. Honestly, I think if Turbo just plays slightly better, Gale Force is going to run away with this series. I'm giving this either a 4-1 or a 4-2, depending on how Turbo is playing. Gale Force is the best team right now. K-Dop and Violent Panda are popping off together. The passing has been insane. The midfield passing, every opportunity they have. Watch out for K-Dop on the walls because he's immediately going to throw it to the middle. And Vitality has to figure that out pretty quickly. I have Gale Force here. Gale Force will be your champions once again in Europe. And that's it. I'm going back to bed. Later. Good night, sweet child.